put your name for attendance, pretty please. And then we have some information up on the board. We want to join a Schoology course. If you need any help with joining the Schoology course, the course code is that second bullet under attendance, and you can join the course by doing that. If you're having any struggles, you can let us know in the chat and we can help make sure that you get joined to the Schoology course. That's where our resources are going to be today. We'll start in just a couple of minutes. We'll give everybody a chance to kind of get in and drop their name in the chat, drop their campus in the chat and their role.
We did also have to change this Zoom link just like 30 minutes ago. So, yay, you made it into the correct Zoom. If you know anybody else who was planning on attending this session, if you want to just, and you don't see them here, if you want to just send them a message and just remind them to please check their email, because we did end up having to last minute kind of change the Zoom links just because of some licensing things and stuff like that. But we're glad you're here. You made it. Yay.
Hope everyone's having a wonderful last hurrah summer. Few more weeks. Good deal. Okay, so if you're just jumping in, if you'll make sure to put your name in the chat along with your campus and your role on campus, that just helps us to get everybody for attendance when attendance is being awarded and just seeing who you are and what you do so we know how we can support you best. At any point, if you have any questions or need any help, one of us will be moderating the chat. So if you have questions or if you get lost at all along the way or can't access something, just drop a question in the chat and one of us will help you for sure. There is a Schoology course code up on the, I almost said board, not the board on the screen. If you
Been a
could
minute since we've done some virtual learning,
I
huh?
know, I know. Board screen, virtual screen, you know. If you want to go ahead and join that Schoology course, that'll have the resources that you're going to be diving into today. So you can just join that Schoology course and then sort of forget about it for the moment until we get into it. All right. However you Zoom best, if you want to open up another screen for the links that it will be coming, tab out whatever you need to do. When you're messaging and asking questions, you might want to go ahead and post it to the whole group chat and not necessarily a private message to one of us. Whoever's running the screen or talking may not necessarily see those private messages. You definitely can, and we can go back and answer later. But if you need help like right away, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and put it in kind of the general chat. So. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. 50 minutes is quite short, so we have a lot to go over.
So this is supporting small group instruction with digital tools. We are so glad you are joining us for this session. Hopefully you leave with a big bank of kind of some resources that you can start to integrate into your classroom in whatever role that you are fulfilling and just supporting learners in small groups and using digital tools to help you do that. So I'm Renee. I am a learning coach, and that is my email address right there in case at any point, like Julie said, if we miss something in the chat, we're going to save the chat. So even if we don't get to a question in the chat during this session, we will get back to you at some point. But if you want to reach out to either of us, we put our email addresses there.
Mhm.
And
Yep, I'm Julie. I'm also a learning coach, the district. If you haven't checked your email over the summer, Parent Square, you might want to check your email / Parent Square because there has been some changes to our role that the campus, that the district sent out. So we're excited to serve in this new role. And again, reach out even if we're not on your campus. We are happy to help anytime. So don't feel shy about, she's not on my campus. I don't want to email her. No, please email us. We want to help no matter where you are. Okay. So When it comes to supporting small group instruction with digital tools, we can align with our core value of great teaching as the key to deep learning. So when we're thinking about small group, it's best practices and it's what shows a lot of growth in our kids. So we want to make sure that we're targeting small group and targeting small group effectively and efficiency so that not only the students in our small group benefit, but also the students in the rest of the room, which is where a lot of our questions can come from and management. So we're going to see if we can help you with that today and give you some new ideas that maybe you haven't learned before.
So here's some of our norms we'll keep in mind today. Of course, this professional development session has been tweaked to be virtual. So in addition to these, just kind of the added norm of please feel free to, if you feel comfortable, be collaborative and feel free to share out. I know sometimes it's awkward to share on a Zoom, but if you don't want to share out loud, like with your voice, please feel free to drop ideas into the chat. In a little bit, we're going to share another platform that we can use to be collaborative kind of digitally. So it kind of actually works out pretty well because we're using digital tools. So now we get to actually like model the use of those digital tools here in a minute. So please feel free to really participate fully as much as you feel comfortable.
Yep. Okay, so here are kind of our learning outcomes that we're hoping we can support you with. And by the time you walk away today, you will be able to have some ideas on effective monitoring and managing with technology usage during small group instruction. Apply those digital tools and resources, curriculum for planning, enriching small group lessons, and not just for your small group, like we said, but activities for the rest of the learners as well who are in the room. And then, of course, effectively blending those digital tools during small group instruction.
So some things we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about just some general management. We know that's like a really big piece of having and being able to kind of facilitate in a digital classroom is how am I going to manage all these different parts and pieces? We're going to have lots of explore time during this session for you to really dive into some resources and kind of find what might work best for you in your classroom. And then just some kind of learning retrospection, some reflection here at the end of hopefully taking what you have learned and really being able to utilize it and apply it for this coming school year.
Okay, so we are looking at these videos, and mine are a little choppy, but you can still get kind of the gist of what's going on. So, as you're looking at these videos, I want you to think about just everything that small group instruction entails from, deciding on what kids, figuring out what your other kids are doing, using technology during small group, your other kids using technology when you're with a small group, all of those things. And I want you to think about which video or image kind of resonates most with my small group experience, and then why? What is the reason? So let's give about, I don't know, Renee, you think, oh, did our images just disappear?
Let me try to go back and come back
Okay,
and
we're gonna try again. There we go. Okay, so we've got like
okay.
the rain hike, we've got these water rapids, kind of surfing on those waves and then climbing the mountains.
And
So,
they're also numbered in the
oh
corners.
yes.
So you don't have to like describe it. You can say number one because or whatever.
Yes. So in the chat, once you have your answer, if you will just drop the number and then the reasoning behind it. So I would probably say, and it can be a mixture as well. Um, I would probably say something like, I don't know, I'm feeling number 4 today because it can be a challenge to kind of get those routines, procedures set up. It's a real, challenge in many ways. But then once we're up there, we're feeling good. I also connect with number 1 because, small group, the room is usually pretty quiet. Everybody's focused on what they need to. So, all right, we're going to give you a minute to drop what you think. Definitely reply to others too. The reactions are on. You can react to people however you want to get in there. Good. Yeah. Ooh, yes. Sometimes it's really successful and other times just kind of chaotic. Yes. Especially at the beginning of the year. When we think of setting those routines and expectations at the beginning of the year, it can be a little bit of a challenge. Ah, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Good deal.
Hey, if you're still
Yeah.
right into the chat, maybe take less than a minute, finish up
Yep.
your thoughts there. just
I
wanted to take some time to think about what has been your experience so far as you get ready to maybe open your mind to looking at leading some small group in some new ways, possibly.
Mhm. Okay. If you're finishing up, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and move forward, and then you can feel free to drop that in the chat, read through others if you'd like.
Okay, so we thought it might be helpful to kind of model this like how you might model a block of time in your classroom. So we're going to do a quick little mini lesson about managing a digital classroom. Usually the big hot button question is, what is everyone else going to be doing if I am leading a small group? And so we have here, if you have the link. Oh, I just realized we never dropped the link to this into the chat. So maybe we
Oh,
can do that real quickly. If you want to follow along with us, we're
I'll
going
get
to
it.
drop, yep, Julie's on it. We're going to drop the link to this presentation so that you also have it for later use into the chat. And this little graphic is a clickable. It's an article, a little bulb page with just some helpful tools for managing the digital classroom. I'm going to switch over to screen sharing the article, so don't feel like you have to pull it up right now. But if you want to follow along or if you just want to view it, like I said, Julie is dropping that in right now. And we're just
Yep.
going to talk through some of these points. So, first off, learners being able to have access to everything that they need for the day to be successful is a biggie for setting them up really for success. You're gonna lessen the number of questions you have, lessen interruptions if they know exactly what to do. And sometimes those sorts of things take time too, and that sort of setup. But we have here for you to kind of peruse in a little bit when we have some explore time as well, some different options that maybe some of them you've seen before, utilizing some agendas. Classroom Screen is always a great interactive one and has a lot of different kind of widgets and parts and pieces there. I know lots of people use Google Slides. It's just easy to quickly update and change, and everything's in one place as far as getting the information for whatever the learners are doing, what's due, what's required, what's optional, those sorts of things. There's also Apple Freeform boards, and Canva has some really great templates as well for sharing kind of some agendas and just some a nice little visuals, because a lot of times this is what's going to be up for the majority of the time, maybe in addition to some other things. Canva, like I said, also has some already built-in templates for that. We're actually going to practice with a FigJam here in a little bit as a form of a way to have everything in one place for some digital like visuals there. So stay tuned for that.
Mhm. Okay, so the next step, in addition to those clear agendas and clear expectations, we want to encourage independence. We all have those moments where we're pulling a small group or we're talking to a learner. And my favorite was when one of my learners would come up and like walk right in front of the kid I was talking to. And I was like, wait a minute, like I was just talking to this person and you just kind of walked in front. So we want to set them up for success early by beginning with these routines and procedures to kind of foster their independence. So this might look like class jobs and class experts that they could go to, different levels of formative checking and understanding so that you know who might need extra help when you send them off. Troubleshooting for technology is a huge one. A lot of times a pop-up will show up or something like that. We have some posters linked here that you can post with QR codes that can help kids independently troubleshoot their technology, which is just a really great um, thing they can learn early, right? If you're struggling with technology, go scan this QR code. All right. And
These
then
are
the
also
good,
linked right here. So this bulb page will be a great resource for you later. We're just kind of giving an overview today right now so you can
yeah.
have all that information and access it. But a lot of these things inside this bulb page are links so that you can check them
Yep.
out.
And when you have some time in just a few minutes, this is a page that you can go back to and explore and make copies of whatever you want and things like that. So you'll have time to really dive into this. The good old try three before me to try to minimize those questions that can be answered by others. Login cards, of course, for our little learners, especially who might need more help with logging in and remembering their passwords. Lots of visual instructions are helpful for our kiddos, even our older kiddos. I taught fifth grade for years and years, and those visuals really helped them as well.
Okay, and then just again, going back to the clarity, lots of very clear directions and instructions. The routines are going to be helpful with this. Setting up your classroom to run well with small groups is kind of a long game process. You do have to kind of have to do a lot of that setup at the beginning, but then it ends up being a lot of worth it in the end because you know, have set things up to be efficient. So setting clear expectations and sticking to them. Here's some kind of examples of what you can do for that. Sometimes, you know, we hear, oh, you know, I know they're just gonna play around and do whatever if they're doing independent activities on their iPad when I'm leading a small group. And so some of these things can kind of help with that, with just setting them up to know what they can do and what isn't an option at that time. And also being aware of like resources for you as the educator for like monitoring and those sorts of things with that kind of activity. So just things to keep in mind there. And that's something that your learning
Yep.
coach can help with as
Yep.
well in the
And
future.
when we dive in a little bit in the Schoology course, there's a whole section on management that gives some like further information of device management when you're pulling a small group for the rest of the class. So if that's an area that you want to learn more about when we have our independent time in a few minutes, definitely check out that folder because there's a lot of good information there. Okay, so giving learners time and space to share their ideas digitally. So this might look like digital sticky notes, Padlets, things like that, where they can share what it is they've been working on, their reflections, any sort of evidence of their work. And not only does this help you see what they have accomplished during the time that you were pulling a small group, this is holding them accountable as well. Because if they know, oh, I'm going to have to post to this discussion group or this fig jam when we're done with the small group time, they're more likely to be on task than if they weren't having to provide any evidence like that. So definitely leaning into those sharing of ideas for our learners. And not only does it hold them accountable, but if you use something like Flip or FigJam or Bulb, that can help to target the ELPs as well, because you could have them record themselves speaking, they could record themselves reading. So that's a way to make that accessible for our learners who might need more of an audio based. We have some real-time examples here of digital classroom community building in CISD around the district. We took some pictures and hopefully you can scroll through these and get some really good ideas. I love the directions that are just QR code up all over, or I would use Classroom Screen and put directions up on the board so they knew exactly, oh, I'm submitting it as a PDF. Here's how I do that, or something like that. So lean into those for sure.
Mhm. All right, so that was just kind of a quick little mini lesson about managing the digital classroom. So now we're going to kind of jump into the rest of our presentation with our explore portion and kind of more of that independent practice. So we have a little directions page. I'll pull back up here. So back to our presentation if you're following along on the presentation. So earlier, maybe if you were in at the very beginning, you might have joined that Schoology course. If not, if you pull up this presentation, these icons right here, these little white boxes are linked to our Schoology course, where we have curated a ton of resources for you to start exploring based on some different folders here. That might help you and assist you with finding some resources, some digital resources that are going to work for you. And we purposely set this up as kind of a choice board win menu type setup where you're really going to get to dive into whatever you want. You can looking into like menus and like visual boards for your class. You can look at independent activities, more of the collaborative activities that are happening when you are with a small group. Something to keep in mind is when you have a small group, there could be people working around the room that are working together and what that might look like. Some resources from Apple Learning Center that have already been designed, and then more on classroom management, which is where you could also look into that bulb article if you wanted to. So if you're in the Schoology course, you should be able to see that there are those folders set up there. So we're about to have just some time on this Zoom for you to explore. While you are exploring, we have also set up a Fig Jam. If
Yep.
you click on that link, or also Julie can drop it into the chat here in a minute.
I did. I dropped
Oh,
it into
perfect.
the
Sorry.
chat. Renee, this is the one
Oh, it's
that
on link.
didn't have access. We forgot to
Okay.
update
So
them.
Julie's
But
gonna
I put
drop
the
the
updated
direct.
link in the chat. Yes, it's in the chat.
There are many versions of all the things in this presentation because this isn't the first time this was going to be presented. So sorry about that. But Julie has the correct link for you, and we will update this one for later use.
Yes.
And then in a second, we'll get onto the FigJam and we'll talk about kind of all the different parts and pieces. But we wanted to model for you a tool, a digital tool that you could actually use in your classroom with learners as well, so that you can kind of see it on the learner end. And we're going to obviously, with 50 minutes, we're going to give you just a super fast rundown of FigJam here in a minute. But starting to introduce it with your learners this year, you might want to even just start with like doing one part or piece or thing inside of FigJam and seeing how it goes, and then kind of expanding more to what we're going to show you guys here in a little bit. And Julie,
Yeah.
I wonder if it might be better if you're going to kind of model that FigJam for you. Oh no, I'm going to share the FigJam.
If
That's
you'll share the screen, but I'll be on the FigJam and I'll spotlight myself.
okay.
My
Perfect. I'm going to.
I have a whole issue with screen sharing going on right now. It's a thing. Anyway, if you have been around me in the last couple weeks, you know that FigJam is my new like hyper fixation app. I really, really love it. And I think there is a lot of implications for it in the classroom and how we can use it in the classroom. This FigJam is not what I would suggest using the first time you use FigJam with your learners. This is for us as educators and professionals. We know we don't need to set up these full expectations beforehand, but when you get into FigJam and you want to use it with your learners, you can set it as view only if you want to use it as a like a management tool, and I'll show that in just a second. So they can only view it and click on things. They can't necessarily add anything. And then, of course, with all new technology tools, we want to do kind of a gradual release of responsibility where maybe you start off with them individually having a document or a copy of the board, and then you can work on getting the whole class on the board as you set up those expectations. So just kind of keep that in mind. I would never suggest throwing something like this directly at your learners right off the bat. You want to start off very small, like Renee said, and then build. All right, so when you log into FigJam, all of us have access to FigJam. It should ask you to log in with Google. If it doesn't, that's okay. We can look at that later. But you can see that all of our cursors have our name attached to it. So you can see exactly where anybody is on this board at any time when we're using our MacBooks. It's a little bit different when they're using their iPads. There is an iPad app that learners now have access to in Mosel Manager. They can download it, they can log in with Google, and then they can get into FigJam boards as well. So it's definitely a really great tool that you can lean in. And what's really great about it is once you're in that FigJam, you can spotlight yourself, and then it's going to pull everybody to where you are. Or you can spotlight another learner if they're doing something really great, and it'll pull them over to where they are. So I am going to just spotlight myself, and I am on this bottom left quadrant that says what I'm working on. So one way you might use FigJam or Classroom Screen or freeform boards is that accountability piece. I'm going to hit stop on this follow, and I'm going to hit spotlight me again, and hopefully it's going to pull everybody over. So when I would do small groups, I always had something very, very clear on the board for my learners to work on, and then that accountability piece. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this, but in our classrooms, you could have kind of a grid like this where they're assigned to their cubby number, or you could pre-put their names on a sticky note, and they're going to have to do a check-in with you to let you know what they're working on. So you can practice with that right now if you want. You could double click on a sticky note and you can type in the sticky note just like it would be if our kiddos were doing it. We're in the what I'm working on section. If you just double click, you can type, I'm working on just to practice typing. You don't have to type anything specific. Over to the right of those sticky notes, providing those sentence frames and stems for our EB learners who might need a little bit more of a guide can help. Are we on view only? I think we might be on view only. One moment. Let me just make sure we can all edit.
Another thing about Jam, while she is working on those settings, is Julie and I didn't create all of these from scratch. FigJam has all of these already built in, and you can kind of search for items and materials to drop into your FigJam board that work for what you want to use it for. So they give you almost like a little library to choose from, and you're able to like choose what you want to include onto your board. You can create these kind of lines and partitions the way that you want them. And then you can continue to change it. So if you have like your one board that you always use for your morning class or whatever it might be, or your one class, then you can just continue to make updates to it instead of having like have multiple different boards and things like that. And it really doesn't take terribly long to create because, like we said, these things are already made. You just have to choose them and kind of drop them right in.
Yep. So this where it says whole class check-ins right over, that's just one of those built-in templates, and I just dropped it and kind of tweaked it to fit what I needed to. So we should all have edit access now if you are logged in with your Google account, because I put it to anybody with Coppel. This works a lot like Google Docs with those sharing settings. So if it's something you're interested in playing with, you can definitely come back when we have our independent time and you can kind of play around with FigJam and see all these features. Okay, the next thing I'm going to go to is we're going to go up here to where it says the teacher waiting room. And I'm going to stop my spotlight and restart it. Um, I know we have a lot of participants. If anybody is struggling to get in the Fig Jam, if you'll please drop a question in the chat so we can help you get to that Fig Jam, because it is somewhere where we definitely want you to be. And we are going to be reflecting on it at the end of the session. You're going to be adding to the Fig Jam. So making sure you're in the Fig Jam and that you can access it and that you can type on a sticky note. And you can just, again, double tap on any of the sticky notes here, and you can practice typing if you'd like. You can add a sticky note, you can add a text. Okay, so another great thing to have when you're pulling a small group and your learners are doing whatever it is they're going to be doing is having somewhere where if the asking of their friends doesn't work or if they just can't get past a spot, they can drop you a question and you can answer during some downtime of the small group session and in between. So they're not directly interrupting you. So I really like this idea of kind of a sticky note parking lot on FigJam where they could just type their name. And again, having those directions right on there, don't rely on them to remember the directions. Put those on there so that they can refer back. Oh yeah, I need to do this. FigJam is also really, really cool because a uh, it has a bunch of widgets you can use. So this one over here next to the tree stump, it says collaborative Q&A. So they could actually click ask a question and they can type in, and you are welcome to practice this right now as well. How do I access FigJam? And then they can ask. And what this is great is that other learners who might be on here can actually hit answer and then answer others' questions. So it's a great way they can ask each other in a classroom, or you can view it later as well without having to do a lot of interruptions. It has a lot of really, um, really great widgets that you can use there. When you're getting into the Fig Jam, definitely make sure that we're doing our g.coppelisd.com and we should be able to get in.
Yeah, and when
Um,
you click on that link of the Fig Jam in the chat, a bar should come up at the top that's asking you to log in with your Google. And as long as it's your CISD Google, you should be good to go there. But
yep.
please message if you have any other
And
confusion.
yes, if you're struggling, please drop it in the chat. We are just in the Fig Jam right now. We're not in the Schoology course yet. We'll get there in just a second. All right, so I also added, because I know not all of us want to use digital options for this, or maybe you want to start off non-digital and move towards digital. So right below that questions widget, let me pull us right back on over. I just added some pictures of some things that I found around. You could do, expert badges, the little lights that you hit to signal, like, please don't disturb, I'm with a small group right now. A question parking lot with good old-fashioned sticky notes is a great way to start off and then slowly transition over to a digital type. And of course, our when is it okay to interrupt my teacher poster? If there's blood, fire, if you're bringing me coffee, just some fun things like that. All right. I am going to pull us over to the widget playground. And then in just a few minutes, we're going to have a release. So this widget playground over here, it's a section 1 widget playground. Widgets are another great thing you can use on FigJam. Let me hit stop and re-spotlight. And when you're there, there's all sorts of different things this can do. So for example, this is our how many teams widget right here. I'm kind of doing I'm like rotating my mouse around it. If I wanted 6 teams and I wanted unlimited numbers of kids per team, anybody who's logged into the current FigJam board is going to get placed in a team, and I can hit randomize, and then it's going to eventually populate my teams there. Kids can join different teams as well. So you could leave it open and they could just hit join. And that would be a way to say, like, okay, who are you working with today? If they're going to be working collaboratively. So play with those widgets. You can also, I know a lot of us really love popsicle sticks and things like that to pull and randomly choose names. The widget for the random picker, whose turn is it? You can hit next.
Mhm.
Over, I might need to reset mine. Here we go. Refresh list of people. There we go. So anybody who's logged in will show up there and you can hit, next and it'll say whose turn it is. So I wanted to highlight some of the really cool widgets that FigJam has because it's really a lot of fun to play with. So in a few minutes when you're on your own, feel free to play with widgets, drop some widgets down on this playground if you want to stay. There's dice you can incorporate. There's some rock, paper, scissors. If kids are working collaboratively and need to solve some disputes. They can do it digitally with the rock, paper, scissors widget. There are alignment scales and simple voting over here with our pictures. So lots of fun widgets. One of my favorites is down here with the Polaroid camera where it says add your picture. I feel like our little learners especially would really like this one because it's just a lot of fun. So they can hit this red button on the Polaroid camera. It'll ask for permission to access your camera. You would want to hit allow, and then they can take their picture and submit it. So they can even put their picture if you were to do like a station rotation or something like that, they could put their picture in the station that they're going to work on. A lot of cool different ways you could use this, also just for fun. So I'm going to take my picture. If you want to practice taking your picture, you would just hit this red button on this little Polaroid down here. It'll give you a countdown.
Another great kind of low stakes way you could start to introduce FigJam is starting to use it maybe as like a fun class meeting thing or like start of the morning, like first thing in the morning, go post on a FigJam, like the answer to this question sort of thing, and just getting maybe yourself and your learners kind of familiar with
Mhm.
FigJam at first before maybe using it in more of like an academic or a more like
Yeah.
formal setting might be a
Yep.
good one too. We just love how everything's has the potential to be all in one place with so many different kind of avenues for learners to collaborate.
hmm And like Renee said, there's a lot of templates for that. So there, when we get into our explorations in just a minute, I'm going to show you a little bit where you can access some of the FigJam resources if you're interested in learning more about FigJam. There's like a cool, friendship bracelet builder template that would be really fun for our Swifties and all sorts of things like that. So if you're interested in FigJam, you haven't been to a FigJam session yet, and you want to learn more, that is definitely an option during our learning time. So I'm going to now drag us over here to our agenda section. So I'm going to spotlight myself. It's going to pull us over. There we go. Okay, so this section where it says directions is an example of what I might have. And if you hit Command Z, it'll undo anything you just did, just like your undo button on your computer. This is an example of something that I might provide my kiddos, either posting to the board or sending them this board in a view only mode where they can view all of my expectations in one place. They can access these links, will take them to those different sections. So if they needed help, they could click on the I need help button and it would take them to the parking lot. So this is one example of a way you could set up. This is also done in classroom screen, your Google or Canva slides. There's a lot of different ways you can set this up. I just like it because it's all in one spot. So I just grabbed images of my voice level posters and put those in with a emoji next to the one that I expect them to be on and the different ways they can work. When we're thinking about our other learners, voice and choice is going to be really important in creating buy-in in what our learners are doing who are not with us. So we have provided an example like that for you as a what I need menu. Um, you can't click directly on these right now, but this one right here, I'm kind of moving it above. This is the one where when you click on it, it will take you to a board where all of those are actually hyperlinked to our Schoology course. So if you want to click on that, you can, and then the icons are hyperlinked. We'll make sure to paste the join code for the Schoology course in the chat again. And then in just a moment, if you need help joining the Schoology course to make sure you can access all the resources and explore on your own, we'll help you with that. So your job, here's my directions right here. So you're going to use your menu to choose your learning. You're going to access that Win menu in the Schoology board or on this Google Drawing and pick what you want to learn about. You're going to visit the corresponding Schoology folder and explore the contents in there. And then we do have some like try this tasks on that Win menu. So for example, where it says menus and choice boards, find a menu or a choice board that you could use in your classroom, design learning experiences to implement small group instruction. So think of this as your plan time, right? If you want to get started with FigJam, you can find FigJam in the resources and start working to plan that for upcoming in the new year. So when you're done, you can just move on to the next learning. You're not stuck in one Schoology folder. You can move and choose what you want to work on and what you want to learn about. All
Yeah,
right.
we've purposely created lots and lots of resources, so you may not or probably will not explore everything in all the folders, but at least now you will have access to all of it in that course that you can stay a member of. So maybe
Yep.
just starting with the thing that you would like to explore the most, and the majority of the rest of this session time is about to be some explore time for
Yep.
you all. And Julie and I are going to moderate and watch the FigJam, the questions, the parking lot, the what I'm working on. We'll watch the Zoom chat too, just in case anyone is having any troubleshooting things with that. But
Yep.
we're about to mute ourselves and just kind of have some time for you to really dive into the resources we've created.
Yep. Really quickly, right to the left there of that green agenda section is a Learn About FigJam. This is also in some of those Schoology course folders. There's more resources for FigJam, but this has like a few videos there. It has some tips and features to try out. And then the second little section below the tips where it says find more education themed templates. I've lifted it and I'm kind of like bouncing it up and down. When you click on that, that is going to take you to all of the FigJam templates that are specifically made for education that you can play with, you can move around, you can tweak it to fit what you need. They are all forced copies, so you don't have to worry about changing it at all when you find one that you want to make a copy of. And then, of course, we have our videos right here in the FigJam board if you're interested. And when you get into the Win menu in the Schoology course in just a moment, there's a lot more in there. All right. I think we're ready. We are going to just keep the directions up on the board as we would if we were in a classroom, that green section that says directions. So if you ever are confused or would like any assistance or forget what you do, you can come back to that green section. We're going to give you this time to independently explore, probably about 10 minutes to start exploring those resources. I'll put a timer on. And then if you're struggling, please drop it in the chat so we can help you out. Or if you have a question or if you need help getting access to anything, drop it in the chat so we can help you out. I'm going to start our timer, our 10-minute timer. FigJam is also great because it has a timer built right into it and it shows up on all of whoever's logged in. It shows up directly on yours as well. And it also has some music built into it that you can play and it'll play on our learners' devices as well. So explore dropping questions in the chat so we can help you out.
According to our Fig Jam timer countdown, we've got a little less than 2 minutes left. I know that was a little bit quick, but we want to make sure we have some time for you to also reflect on some of the things you were able to see, and you can for sure have more time to explore those resources later too. So we got about a little less than 2 minutes.
We will also stay on for a few minutes after if we're having trouble with accessing anything, and we can help and maybe do some screen sharing of what is going on so we can figure out exactly what's going on and help you make sure you get access to whatever you need access to. All right, so we are going to go ahead and just do our last quick reflection activity. If you will come back to our Fig Jam board that we were in, we are going to do a very quick activity just to reflect. So I'm going to paste that Fig Jam link just one more time in the chat. If you just want to go to the chat and click on it, that's totally fine. So this is actually a really cool reflection activity that I used with I made it with their AI generator. So if you're interested in that, definitely get with your learning coach so we can help you. But it took me no time at all. I typed in the AI generator what I wanted, and it produced the template for me, and I just tweaked it just a little bit. So you can respond however you want to in either all of the squares or in one of the squares, but we just want you to get thinking about the resources that you saw and the things that you might want to implement. So you can choose, what do I want to start doing? Maybe you found something that you want to dive deeper and try to use in your classroom. Maybe there's something you want to stop doing that you realize like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I shouldn't do that. You can put that there. You could add a sticky note down in the purple. Maybe you saw something that really reinforced the ideas that you've had in your classroom that you're like, oh, great. I'm doing the right thing. This has been, encouraged. I'm going to keep doing this. Or a sticky note for your next steps or a sticky note for your next steps. If you want to get with your learning coach and explore Fig Jam more, or have your learning coach help you with management at the beginning of the year for really structuring your small group for success, exploring Apple Classroom and study apps in Moselle Manager. So wherever you kind of want to reflect there, again, you can reflect in more than one. I will ask that you make sure your name is on your sticky note once you've dropped at least one of those sticky notes. in at least one box. Again, you can do multiple, or you could just drop one sticky note. Another way you could respond here, I'm going to teach you just a little bit more about FigJam. If you type C on your keyboard, it brings up a little comment looking button. And when I click on it, it's going to let me just drop a comment instead of a sticky note. I want to keep doing agendas. And then you can hit the arrow. And then instead of a sticky note, it's a comment that can be collapsed. So you would hit your C on your keyboard, click on where you want to leave your comment, and you can leave your comment and hit enter, and it'll leave right there wherever you kind of place it. So that's another option for your response there if you don't want to leave a sticky note. You could also just leave a text box if you want, or yeah, I see a lot of us exploring shapes too. So however you want. And it doesn't have to be directly on if we get a little full, because I know there's a lot of us, feel free to drag it out to the side, just kind of near, near that box. And once you've left at least one reflection, you are good to go. We hope you walked away with some ideas that you can implement. Renee and I are going to stay on for a few minutes to help anybody who may need help getting access to anything. And we look forward to exploring more with you this upcoming year.
Thanks for joining us. This has also been recorded, so we will also share that record link if you know anyone who wasn't able to make it. And if you did not get access to any of the resources, please let us know so we can
Yes.
help make sure you get those for the future at least as well. And thank you.
Especially that Schoology course, because that Schoology course isn't going to close. Anytime you're planning with a team or anybody, you can always go back to that Schoology course with all of those resources and dive in to see if you can find something to fit your needs in your classroom. So really want to make sure you get access to that Schoology course that's full of resources. So once you've responded, feel free to head out if you are done. And if you need help accessing, that's okay. If you'll just hang out with us for just a couple minutes, if you have time, and we can help you out. Some of it is really visual, so we might need you to share your screen. And then to figure out what's going on. If you don't have time to stay with us, that's okay. We will go back in the chat and we will send you an email and send your learning coach an email as well to make sure that someone follows up with you to help you get in there. Okay. Ooh, this is a great question, Tiffany. So Tiffany asked the question why some of the sticky notes show people's names automatically and others don't. Renee, will you do me a favor? Will you click on one of the sticky notes? So Renee is going to share her screen and show you the answer to that question, and I'll walk her through it in a second. But if you want to know how to turn on or turn off the sticky note names, you might want to look at Zoom and kind of uh, see Renee's screen so I can walk you through this. So Renee just clicked on this blue sticky note here, and you can see that bar shows up where you can change the color and the font. On the right side, there's a little like feather pen that says show hide author. When you click that off, it'll hide the author. And when you click it on, it will show the author. So that little feather pen leaves a signature on those sticky notes. And that is definitely a best practice that I would do with my kiddos. They must always have their authorship on. This is also a tool that's a lot like Google Docs in that you can go back to the edit history. So there's no mysteries on, oh, he was typing on my sticky note or everything deleted. I don't know what happened. You can go back into the edit history as far as the very, very, very beginning of your FigJam before anybody got on it, and you can see exactly who did what and how.
Another thing is some people I think might have created a shape to type into, and so then it might not have your name underneath it like a
Yes.
post-it note would. So these blue post-its with the little corner of it is flipped over are your post-it notes to type right
Mhm.
into.
Yep. The shapes will still be attached in the edit history, but it won't show directly on there. Another best practice I would do, especially when introducing this tool with kiddos, is I would probably, especially if they're young kiddos, I would go ahead and pre-put their names on it. So they would just find their name and go to their name. Or I would put their faces on it if they're really little and they would find their face, right? Things like that. So FigJam has so many features. We could spend an hour talking about just FigJam. I did last week. So I love talking about it. Feel free to reach out. And again, we want to make sure you get in. So let's move to the chat now, Renee. If you're
Sure.
still exploring, that's totally fine.
I'm also
If,
going to go ahead and stop the recording just for
yeah.
this part.
I saw a couple people who were kind of stuck